All right, so here's part two about the idea of living in abundance. In part one, I was talking about liars and feeling like anyone that has abundance must somehow be part of something negative. Okay? And there's a lot of circles that talk about those kind of things, and somehow you must be virtuous in living very low to the ground, and not wanting any money and not wanting a lot. Live in a tiny home. Leave your footprint as small as possible. Don't have anything, and that way you're actually doing something right. And that's a really strong conversation that's going on in the world. And I definitely fell into that for a little while. Like all things in my journey, I have experienced pretty much every single kind of lifestyle that you can think of. So that goes into the idea of what can you think up? What can you imagine? Can you imagine having complete abundance and wealth and wanting to make everything in your world and with the people around you flourish in the best sense possible? No exploitation, no lies. You just have this idea of something that you want to attain, and you focus on it, and it creates abundance in your life, and you don't have to be apologetic for that. Absolutely not, because that gives you power in the positive to be able to continue that positivity in the world in so many different ways. I've come full circle in a lot of different ways. I've gotten back into wanting to create that abundance, and immediately, as soon as you make that decision, it goes directly into the universe, goes into it, and automatically you meet all the right people that are totally in tune with what you're doing and what you can help them with too. Really make that change. So there's another onion of lies, because what I've been noticing with a lot of young people is that they're told, don't have anything, but also tear down those that do, and somehow that's the right thing to do. Well, let's take a step back. We need to ask each person, what's going on in their head? What do you want? And is it coming from a place of anger? Is it coming from a place of want, of jealousy, of resentment? Those spaces, if you act upon any of that, and I've done that in the past, I think all of us have in some way, shape, or form, that never really creates anything good. If you come from a place of, I know what I would like to see happen in my world in the best sense possible, and let's see what unfolds from that. And I'm just going to keep walking that walk. It's the dream map. It's the dream map. It's the vision boarding. Then, and you come from a place of servanthood rather than selfishness, and that's something I've had to learn too. It's like, go for servanthood, not selfishness. Then amazing things can happen. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think what we're seeing right now in world events is this fight, whether we realize it or not, between the servants for their ultimate good and the selfish who have made exploitation an economy. But they've hidden it behind great oratory. And they've hidden it behind being cool, or throwing virtue signaling out, but the way they actually make their money is not at all in the best sense possible for humanity. And that's when we need to take a step back individually and look at each one of these individuals that can talk a good game. But the thing is when they talk a good game, their game is usually to make you be a victim. They want to sell you on the idea of being a victim, and they want to sell you on the idea of not necessarily your own prosperity, but let me help you just survive. But then you're at a certain level that you can never truly be your ultimate best self. And that's the big fight. That's truly the big conversation that's going on here. Do you want to have a space where you're told you can only be at this level, and so let me help you maintain that so that you can have the least amount of shelter and the worst kind of food and the worst kind of health care and all these different things? Or do you want to be around folks that say, hey, guess what? Let me give you the tools on how you can change your mindset so that you can create the best life possible. If you decide that you want to live by your imagination, let me show you the tools on how you can attain that for yourself, and then you will not be held down by anybody in any way, shape, or form. You know, depending on the trajectory of how you think and what you want to bring into the world and how accountable you are to it and how committed you are to it, you're going to get those amazing gifts back by being a servant to all of those that you want to help too, in your imagination of what you think you can bring best to the table in the world. Which conversation would you rather be in? Because in practical terms, from what we've seen the last 60 years, if you look back onto any single person that's attuned to that idea of turning you into a victim, if you follow who and what they're aligned with, it's been all about exploitation. But they say it really cool. They sell you it really well. And those that are trying to encourage you to know that you are your own person, not your race, not your ancestral culture, you know, all these different groupthink things. You are the master of your own mind. And no one's going to judge you on anything but what you decide your mind wants to attune to. And that's the biggest freedom, because then no one cares about anything else. They don't care about what you look like. They don't care about where you came from. They don't care about anything. They care about what you think right now and what you can imagine for yourself and for all the people around you and the ideas that you have to bring to the table. That's all they care about. And that's where your accountability is. That's pretty great. That's freedom. Many of us, I would say, you know, there's many of us that come from challenging situations growing up, or familial situations, all kinds of things that make us feel this concept of shame, or a really weird connection to you have to go along with what's already been set in order to be accepted, but it's not positive. And you want to break out of it, but then you think that you're going to be alone and you won't have those connections anymore. Let me tell you a story about that as a metaphor, okay? Well, I was in Los Angeles there was one night that Tim, my friend Tim, and Adam and I were walking down Hollywood Boulevard. Now, I tried to avoid a lot of the really gnarly stuff that was going on in LA while I was there. But this one particular night, because I was with Adam and Tim, I felt safe because they were big guys, you know, and we're just walking down the street because Tim lived close by. It's about midnight, and I'd never done that before, and I saw a lot. And there was this one girl, she couldn't have been more than 21 years old, wearing a very, very tight, skimpy dress, clearly very drunk. And she had taken her heels off because she couldn't even walk in them anymore. And she couldn't even hold them, let alone walk in them, okay? And as we're getting closer and we're approaching her, I'm seeing all these guys on the street looking at each other like, are you going to hit that? Are you going to hit that? Are you going to say something if I hit that? You know, what's going on? And the three of us looked at each other like, well, we got to do something. We got to do something because this girl's not going to be in a good place if she's by herself on this street right now. Well, Adam walked up to her first, and being a guy, she was immediately really defensive with him, and that didn't work out too well. So he backed off, and I approached her, and I said, what's up? What's going on? You know? And it took her a second for her to feel me out, and then she said, they left me, they teased me. And I said, who? What happened? The backstory is apparently there were a bunch of folks that invited her to this bar that weren't really her friends, that invited her, got her really drunk, and they started doing all kinds of terrible things to her. And she left, and she walked out in the street, and that's when we found her. And she was crying, and she was upset, and she clearly had wanted to be accepted by these toads, which was what they are. And I said to her, after a second of taking it in, I said, but here's the thing, you left them, and then now you're with us. And now it's a better conversation. And now you're with people that want to make sure that you get home safe, and that there's a bigger conversation out there for you. Not to be around those folks that are going to exploit you. I did a blog about it in 2012, and I posted it. So if you ever want to read it, it's called No One Ever Kicks a Dead Dog. They kick the light. This is the problem with, there's two different mentalities. There are people that want you to be in their circle if they see you as a light, and they want to just kick you, and they want to tear you down, and they want to destroy you. They want to take away all your innocence. They want to take away all of your beauty, your joy, your light. And that's how they do it. They pretend that you're your friend. They pretend that they've got an opportunity for you. They pretend that there's all these things. And this goes from like high to low. But at the end of the day, you're lost. They leave you lost. And then there are the people that no matter where you're at, doesn't matter. They want to lift you up. They want to show you who you are. They want to support your dreams and your talents for nothing at all. They want to lift you up. And they want to encourage you to know that you can do anything that you want in the world. And you don't have to be accountable to bad guys to make it happen. And you don't have to sacrifice your innocence or your joy, your light in order to do so. Now, which camp do you want to be in? That is the fight right now. I don't care about what anybody else wants to fight about with derivatives of all kinds of things. The ultimate fight and the ultimate game right now is between those two camps. And I'm happy to say that she got home safe, and she knew the next morning that she met people that actually cared about her. They wanted the best for her. They got her home safe, and hopefully it inspired her to get away from all of those folks that wanted to just exploit her. Because she walked out and she walked away and she got into a new conversation. Now, what if we each did that? Any situation that you're in, whether it's as awful as, maybe you were brought up in a gang, or a culture that constantly creates negativity, but you don't understand how you can get out of it, just walk out. Put your intent out there and see who shows up. Be around the people that are supportive of that. That's when we can create real abundance, and we can actually change all of these different economies that on so many different levels, when it really comes down to it, nobody is for war, right? I hope so. Unless you're an arms dealer, and there are people like that. And there's people that are involved in all that stuff. I would like to think that ultimately, in general, most people are not about that. But sometimes we're told a layer of a lie to go along and promote someone who isn't quite honest about what they're really about. And we fight to keep them, or we fight their fight for the misrepresentation of what they're truly about. And we get pulled into that. So I was saying in the part 1 that it's not everyone who has abundance or has a whole bunch of wealth is the enemy. It's not the rich versus the poor. It's not like that. It's your mentality, because there are plenty of people that have wealth that are in this fight that actually they created the abundance in their mind, and they are on the front lines of doing amazing things to change, and I know some of them. And if I can give you a word of hope without saying too much, I can personally tell you that there are people right now that are changing the game in sports. There are women in high levels in the sports arena that are counseling and mentoring young people to have their best mentality out, not to get sucked into getting involved with gambling and prostitution and sex trafficking and drug trafficking and all that stuff. That goes into sports. There's people in Hollywood right now that their minds have changed, and they're now at the forefront of wanting to help people just like that girl. Because that story about that girl, that happens in Hollywood every day. It happens to little boys too. There is a shift in so many different realms of people that have a lot of resources that are trying to change the game and make it truly a beautiful place. And so wherever you're at, have hope. Don't despair. Don't be critical. Don't think the worst, because that's what keeps everyone down. Consenting to the worst. Wherever you're at, okay, fine. Know that people are changing. What are you going to do? Who do you want to be? You can do anything you want. And it doesn't matter what's in your bank account. I know that for a fact. Alright, so I've talked enough. And I hope that you guys have a really wonderful rest of the week. Keep your heads up and bring out the best. That's what we need right now. That is what we need right now. Inspiring everyone around you, including you, to get out of this funk and really reset. All right. I look forward to seeing all the amazing things that happen. All right. Bye, guys.